Delta Force Operations, aka the Extraction mode, has become my first ever PvP-centric game I play and enjoy, although I really dislike any form of PvP. And the two main reasons for this are, firstly, how good it feels to play and how perfectly streamlined most of the systems are and work with refined quality of life features that I dearly miss in games like single-player Tarkov, for example. Secondly, the totally noob-friendly and generous economy that makes it easy to progress even if every PvP encounter means certain death. After 3 days and maybe 15 hours playtime without spending any money and not buying the premium battle pass, I had a decent stash and 5 million in the bank. And by the time of this video, I sit at over 30 million in cash, a fully loaded stash, and more gear crates and tickets I can use right now. I did buy the premium battle pass for around $8 at some point. And all I want to say is this: even if you dislike PvP and will mostly die in every encounter, you can still make this work if you treat it like the forever winter setting, where avoidance and stealth is king and open conflict only a last option. They even released a PvE raid now, but that is a Far Cry-like mayhem mode with time limits to push you from objective to objective in a totally linear experience with no extra loot. For me, that is not what I want from a tactical shooter, where I especially like the risk-reward setup of an extraction mode. But pure PvE alternatives are mostly in early access, which often lack content and polish. You can watch my last video for more information in this regard. This video will focus on why a PvE-only player can have fun and success with the operations mode in Delta Force and how I approach it. Upon entering the black site, your base of operations, do yourself a favor and change the chat channel to private. Watching the global chat just reminds me why I dislike humanity, and a zombie apocalypse might not be the worst idea. After that, the game is much more enjoyable. Even with the free battle pass, you will get a lot of gear tickets and access to the medium 2x2 safe container. The premium road does give you a 2x3 container for the whole season and frequently hands out gear and ammunition. If you see yourself playing this game on a regular base, the $8 for the pass are totally worth it in my opinion, especially with only optional wipes in the future. Now there are a lot of currencies and reward sections like daily logins, daily challenges, weekly tasks and so on. It is not as bad as Once Human, but similar in its mobile-like structure and could do with a more streamlined approach. But in the end you get the hang of it, and it's nice to get so many small rewards from different sources. Just don't forget to claim them all. But every other aspect of the user interface is a reminder how bad a game like Tarkov is in this regard. Auto-rotating items, mass selection, super cool details on gun stats and detailed item informations which let you easily switch back and forth between the sources to buy them, to name but a few. Other systems like the medical items and injuries are easy to pick up and much more accessible, like in Grey Zone Warfare for example. Objectives on the map are easy to find, the pin system is very helpful without being too intrusive and so on. This really feels like a polished 2025 game, apart from the mobile gaming structures for all the different rewards. But then again, Once Human is much worse in my opinion. Right now you have 4 maps, of which 2 can be played on easy and normal and the others only on normal difficulty. Because how the extracts on Brakesh and Space City are structured, you will mainly stick to Layali Grove and Zero Dam. In Brakesh, your only safe exit is a no backpack exfil, and Space City is a death trap. And the way the extraction points work turn this map essentially in a battle royale. Between Layali Grove and Zero Dam, I think the Grove is the more beautiful map that is a lot of fun to explore, but there are also much more wide open spaces and it is much harder to stay concealed and disengage after being spotted. Zero Dam is the most effective map in terms of loot and makes it easier to avoid enemy teams, disengage or set up traps for enemy players. And while I played mostly on normal difficulty within the first 2 weeks, this has changed now and all I really do is running easy difficulty, because now really every encounter at normal is a death sentence. Well-coordinated teams or real PvP sweats with top-tier gear are much more common and have become the norm. While in cheap blue gear or just starting with a knife for a zero to hero run on easy is a much more relaxed experience. Even a total PvP noob like me is able to come out on top here and there. But my kills are mostly other players committing suicide by panicking, which is what I usually do, or me sneaking around and hearing players first running around. With the extremely short time to kill, mostly the player with the initiative wins. If I would like to see one thing changed, it is this. The health and armor points could use a decent buff for longer firefights. If Delta Force ever decides to offer a PvE operations mode like single player Tarkov with buffed and more NPCs like in the new raid, I would play the ever-living shit out of this game and all 4 maps would become viable options to play. But right now, even the PvP operations are a lot of fun if you fall under one of 2 categories of players. Number 1, you are okay with PvP and you maybe even want to hunt down teams and other players, then it is a no-brainer for you. Number 2, you have fun playing a stealth avoidance game, like in the Forever Winter setting, which sometimes leads to waiting a bit for the clock to tick down and have the patience to sneak around, hoovering up other players' remains and trying to read the game through map knowledge, avoiding hotspots in the early game, listening for gun sounds and so on. The latter is how I play the game and well, have become rich if you want. Right now I could lose a blue mid-tier 250k setup 120 times in a row without touching the gear in my stash, using any of my 15 plus gear tickets or opening the gear and gun stashes still unopened from battle pass or event rewards. And I don't say this to brag. I'm a really bad PvP player and even managed to die twice from an NPC encounter. It is meant to give you the scope of what you can achieve and how generous the game throws loot at you. So it is easy to overcome the infamous gear fear, and zero to hero runs are fun and work really well. Which leads me into some general tips or more how I approach the game, and maybe this is something you can relate to and see having fun with. The game is free after all, and while the premium battle pass does throw a lot of gear at you, it is not necessary to succeed. A lot of players start with a knife or pistol and no gear at all after being killed and run that zero to hero kit until the next death. It is impossible to not make money this way. Firstly, let's look at operators. Like most others, I usually use Hackclaw as a lone wolf, at least at Zero Dam and the occasional Brakesh map I play without a backpack. On Lyali Grove I prefer Stinger with the smoke screens to disengage in the open areas or confuse enemy players. I played the majority of my time with these two. I started with Stinger only because he is great at escaping and the self-heal is very fast and efficient. These days I mostly play Hackclaw because her passive is so strong and you have a decent tool to push players, something Stinger is lacking. Her ultimate is also very nice to check for players, but be prepared to fight, because it will also reveal to others that you are around. Some solo players prefer D-Wolf for his ultimate to quickly relocate or reach an exfil very late in the game. The two engineers are also pretty cool if you want more offensive tools, and the incendiary grenade is a great way to flush players out of a room. I know because I already died twice to it. I really like the operator concept in general, and you can pick anyone who really suits your playstyle. Stinger and Hackclaw are great choices if you want to avoid confrontations. D-Wolf and the engineers are excellent if you want more options to push enemy teams and players. Let's take a look at the Zero Dam map as an example on how a game strategy after the drop could look. The first 4 to 5 minutes are where most players on the map die. You will have up to 3 teams starting on each side of the map. Not all are 3-man squads, duos and 2 or maybe 3 lone wolves usually roam the map. If I have a really bad starting spot between 2 hotspots without a good way to escape, I sometimes hide for 3 or 4 minutes until the enemy ranks are thinned out. But in general, the first 5 minutes are what you want to survive by avoiding any hotspots and move in the opposite direction of any teams. They will usually grab the first yellow marked containers in the southern regions and then move north to the dam. Some duos, and especially lone wolves, will have the same strategy like you, so keep that in mind and move slowly, listen to sounds and be patient. There's a cheap blue helmet with enhanced hearing range and noise reduction in the game. The 2 main strategies for me are rushing through the next exfil as fast as possible, staying away from hotspots and try to be the first in all the minor loot locations while knowing good spots like birds' nests and unmarked safes. This was my major approach in the first days and is still a viable option. Or you plan on exiting as late as possible. I often extract within the last minute of the raid. For this, you need to know the map and how long it takes to get from A to B. The better you know the map, the more this strategy pays off. You can either slowly rotate between the southern areas, maybe even going back and forth to enter the dam after the elevator was activated within the last 8 to 10 minutes to hoover up any leftovers. From the dam I can usually reach any extract within 3 minutes. A cheap endurance stim comes in handy here. If there was a Mendel brick on the map, this often sparks big fights and you can see where they happened. It can pay off to check these locations very late in the game, but especially learn where all the birds' nests are. Link to the interactive map is down below. I pulled a lot of high value items out of them, even on easy difficulty. By the way, my best run was on easy difficulty and finding a 1.2 million keycard for Space City in an ordinary loot spot. The same basic thoughts when planning out your run after the drop apply for Lyali Grove, but Zero Dam is easier to read and maybe the most efficient map. I will keep it very basic here because a lot is just doing runs and learning the maps and how most of the players move. If you are interested in more tips, let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to add your best strategies and experiences. It is always nice to see how other players succeed or approach the game. For now, this is all about Delta Force operations. Thank you a lot for watching to the end. Have a great time playing the game and take good care of yourself.